Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Nitro Racing League here on the channel for the Daytona 500 here in Nitro, the first race of the regular season about to get underway, where 23 of us would get ready to attack this Daytona track here. So this race is 100 laps around Daytona, stage 1. So by the way, actually, we got started on lap 2 because we took the first lap to get everybody into their correct starting position for this race. But we have 30 laps in stage 1, so stage 1 ends when we hit, I believe it was lap 31 or 32, sorry, lap 32. And then when we hit lap 62, that would end stage 2, and then the race would end actually when we hit lap 102. So it was a bit of a chaotic start there. Now, as we were quite a ways down the order, we didn't have the greatest duel, as I actually hit a little bit blocked there on the opening lap here as we would go down this back straight away behind the 42 of NASCAR King YT. So I was really not sure what the situation was really going to be here in Daytona, if anyone was going to be willing to take risks and jump up to that second line, if we were just going to be single file. One of the advantages we have in this race is we have a lot of Toyotas, but that advantage would quickly go away because throughout the early part of this race, Eddie in the 94 car, and as you actually see me making a pass on him, he would end up disconnecting from the race a little bit later on, so he would unfortunately, before even the end of stage 1, not even be a factor anymore. But here you see myself trying to make some moves on the outside, and you can already see some single file racing up there in front of us. So now with 23 of us in this race, we actually had split parties for the manufacturer. So Toyota was in their own Xbox party, same for Ford and Chevrolet, and every party has a leader for the manufacturer who's all in a Discord call together so they can call out cautions. A caution in this league comes out with 2 or more cars having an incident together. And by the way, if you're new to the Nitro Racing League, as well as actually we have just about our first incident of the day, I get put to the wall by the 22. Now is actually we have a bunch of cars going all over the place. We have a crash, and then I get hit from the 9 because I came down across his nose. I didn't see him coming, and now I'm crashing, and the caution comes out for the first time here today in Daytona. That kind of developed out of nowhere. So we came into the pit lane, put fuel in the car, put 4 tires on it, and got back going. And as you guys know, we do have the choose cone rule in Nitro, so I chose the outside, and we were already up back towards the top half of the field. But as I was saying before the crash, if you are new to the Nitro Racing League potentially here on the channel, the top 5 is the only ones that get points in the stages. So stage 1 and 2, you have to be in the top 5 to get any points now. And of course, for the final stage, everybody gets points here as you come through out of turns 2. So a bit of a hectic start to the Daytona 500 this season. You see a lot of driver changes this season. Jay now moves over to the 73 Bobby Carter car, by the way, in that Toyota. So he was able to stay in the Toyota family with us now, as I really wanted to stay with Toyota as well as that 11 car in specific. And fortunately, we were able to make that happen for this season here as we come through turns 3 and out of turns 4 behind one of the rookies this season of the 88 of Libert. And up in front of him, you see the 20. That is no longer Matt O'Brien in the 20, who is also the Nitro League owner. Now, that is actually Jonathan, who drove the 19 last season. So he actually swapped with Matt. So Matt is now in the 19 this season. Not sure why he ever actually did that, to be honest with you guys. But it's definitely going to take a little bit of time to get used to. I'm sure I'll call that 20 car Matt at one point in this race. But we were now single file on lap 11 of this race. As you can see me really backing off, and that was actually me trying to save some fuel, but a lot of single file racing. Jay and both Jonathan would actually get down in line in front of us as there was some trouble kind of brewing up ahead of us as we went down into turn 3, but for now they keep it clean, so we would continue on our way now a little bit later, still running single file. But then we have an incident down the back straight where the 12 goes all the way towards the inside while they're like 3 and 4 wide in front of us. I back out of it, seeing what's happening. The 9 of Andrew Wisdom in through the infield, last season's champion. He comes back on the track, and then we already have other cars crashing at the same time, and everybody's coming together. Somehow we get through that mess, and the caution will come out. But in the Nitro Racing League, which is new this season, is we have a rule where we have to race it back to the line due to everybody being in split parties. So we would race it back to the line for every single caution now that gets called this season when we do have split parties. Now, if everybody can be in the same party when we have maybe a fewer drivers in a race, then we probably won't have to race it back to the line. We can just call a caution right away. But once again, we pitted, then we got the choose cone rule, and we got back underway here on the inside line here currently in P14. You're going to notice a few drivers that have actually been in the Nitro Racing League before but left and now have come back, like the 2 of Smoke GT, and then Sean, aka Demon Savior, in the 12 car now, as we were 3 wide down this front straightaway, making a pass here on the 14 of Mahu. He was now a rookie this season as well, along with Libert in that 88 car, as we were once again, though, on lap 22, single file. And I have a very tough time staying in line when it comes to plate racing in just any league, but I was actually doing a pretty decent job of it today, as there was actually some trouble behind us again, another crash would start up, and of course, like I said, we have to race it back to the line. So we came through turns 3 and 4, and you're going for every position you can when you're in the situation of racing it back to the line, but I decided to just kind of chill right here because we had the Toyotas all kind of lined up here, so I decided to not force any issue and just cross the line here in P8 to bring out that caution. So once again, we would get ready to go green for yet another restart here with the whole choose cone rule and whatnot, and you can see everybody in the top 10 pretty much went to the bottom, so I drop all the way down to P15 because a bunch of drivers were able to get in front of us on the outside, and then the inside, I thought we were going to be okay, but no, the inside decides we're not going, so now on lap 25, we're going to be all the way down to P18 when we were inside the top 10 moments earlier when we got to the choose cone, so that was very unfortunate. The choose cone for this track, we were using that little dark patch of asphalt in turns 3. I believe that was actually the spot where Juan Pablo Montoya hit the jet dryer back in 2012. Now is actually, I go off the track because I see a whole bunch of trouble brewing. Now the caution comes out again, and now we're 4 wide down the back straightaway. The 88 gets hit down into me, and now we go crashing through the infield turn through turns 3, and we're gonna have to get the car recollected and get back going and get to that line as quick as possible. Right there, you see all that dark patch of asphalt? That's exactly what I was talking about for the choose cone. But once again, we would get recollected, get all back together, and get going for yet another restart. But at this point, we only had a couple laps to go in stage 1. And stage 1 ends when we hit lap 32, so the white flag starts on lap 31. It was a little bit frustrating with that incident there, as I was, in a position where I know what the situation is, where we race it back to the line, so I didn't want to back out of it there through the grass even, and unfortunately the 88 just made contact with someone, and then he got hit down into me, and around we went. But that's going to be the effect you're going to see at some points this season if this race it back to the line situation continues. Now as we go down into turn 3, some more trouble, but it looks like we all keep it going in the right direction. As they look behind us, the 2 car of smoke, JT, nearly goes around, but it looks like he keeps the car straight as we come through. Now out of turns 4, you do see some cars on the pit lane, and that was unfortunately Eddie, like I mentioned, who had disconnected, and then Bryce, another Toyota driver, had disconnected as well. So we were now down 2 Toyota drivers, which is going to be a bit of an issue for us if we want to make maybe another line work later in this race. We're going to have less help, but this is now on the final lap of stage 1, and it was an extremely boring end. Single file as I pull out a line coming to the line, but have nothing there, so we get P10 in stage 1 as we get no stage points whatsoever. So very, very unfortunate. I just cut right through to the next restart. So we were now underway for the start of the second stage. This was at the end of the first lap of stage 2 as we went down into turns 1, running behind Jay in the 73 as he gets down to the bottom. There wasn't a whole lot of teamwork going on right now, but we did know what we wanted to do. We had a plan set in place for Joe Gibbs Racing for what we want to do, especially later in this race, and you were going to see some team play like right there. MJ in the 49 car actually lets me in line as we came through down this back straightaway on lap 35. Closing in towards the halfway point slowly here in the Daytona 500 as we come through turns 3 and 4. Now to the inside of the 24. Before it was Connor in that 24 car last season. Now it is Venom. I don't know his actual first name, but his gamer tag, of course, Venom. You see now Connor, aka Combat, is now in the Toyota family. In the 95 cars, actually, the Toyotas all get together there as Jonathan had a moment of lag, and that unfortunately messed everybody up and wrecked Connor. And then a bunch of cars behind us go crashing. The 48 and the 9 come together. A bunch of cars go crashing. Like I said, the caution once again is going to come out as we go down into turns 3 and 4. I backed out of it right there to not run into the back of my teammate of Jonathan, so we're racing it back to the line. Where are we going to come through as we come through out of turns 4? The 19 of Matt's leading, but then the 20 car goes crazy. He was actually up there the whole time. He was just lagging so bad at the moment. He was all the way to our front bumper, but the caution comes out right there, and we end up P11 just behind Christian in the 4 car. So once again, we would get back underway for yet another restart where I had chose the bottom once again. The 12 of Sean there gets a bit of a poor launch, so we're going to be able to just about get ahead of him as we go down into turns 1, and once again just continuing to run on the bottom. We had more trouble into turns 3, the 4, the 41, they all have some big moments, and then we have a car up and over. That's Matt Chaffee in the 10, a big crash in turn 3. The big one has struck, and the caution, of course, once again is going to come out once we get to the line, but stage 2 has just turned into a big crash fast as we get everything we can, and sure enough, we get to P6 as we cross the line for the caution. And now this will leave us with about 20 laps to go or so, just over 20 to go as we would get back underway in the second stage. So a very chaotic second stage so far as we go down towards turns 1. Behind us we have the 6 car of Cameron. Now last season he drove the 88 car for Hendrick Motorsports. So like I said, a lot of driver changes this season. I myself and Andrew Wisdom, we stayed in the same car in the 9 and the 11 car as we came through down this front straightaway. We had to get a bit of a checkup going there because we had once again another caution. And then I actually on the next restart fell so far back after pitting and then had a bit of a moment of lag, and that unfortunately made me lose the draft. So all of a sudden to end stage 2 on lap 61, well, we were down here now at the very back of the field. So we would get back underway for the start of Stage 3 now. Unfortunately, we had no chance there at the end of Stage 2. It was a very boring end. I just cut straight to the end of that thing. We actually ended it, I think I said lap 61 for Stage 2. But now we're racing it all the way around to lap 102 to finish this race here in the Daytona 500 for the Nitro Racing League. Andrew Wisdom currently leads as we exit turns 2. Of course, at the end of this episode, I will show you guys the point standings, what they look like now as we drop down in line. Fortunately, Connor would allow me in now here as we were on lap 65, so we have plenty of time to go. We do have a couple pit stops to make as well. As we came through into lap 69, nice. Well, you can see what was happening. Single file all the way around, and that was just making it very boring. I mean, on the positive side, it made it easy to edit now. As we went down into turn 3 on lap 73, though, finally some chaos kicks off the 4 and the 10. They come together. Matt Chaffee around, and the caution is sure enough going to come out here as we come through out of turns 4. So now I'm making a move to the outside of the 14 and Mahu. He's trying to go up towards the top right here. We make a little bit of contact, then the 22 blocks coming to the line, and we end up P7 when the caution comes out. But then we, of course, pit, and then we were now in P6 on the restart after going to the outside for the choose cone. So we were in row number 3, and it looked like we might have a chance, but the one problem was we have absolutely no teammate help around us here as we go down into turns 1 with a little bit over 20 laps to go in this race, about 25 or so as we go through turns 1 and turns 2. The 42 drops down to the inside as well. So now down to P7, and then they actually come together as we go down this back straightaway, and then I get hit by the 42 into the outside wall, and everybody's going around the 95, our teammate, and then I actually come down in front of Jay, and then MJ hits me. I go around through the infield, and the caution, of course, is going to come out once again in the Daytona 500. We would have to race it back, we would pit, we would get back going here, and I chose the outside again for the choose cone because we had a bunch of Toyotas lined up here. So now P14 was just barely over 20 laps to go in this race, but definitely it was a little bit frustrating at times here with the amount of crashes we were having. Now as we would get in line though, and finally everybody was getting back in line here on lap 80 or so, and it would turn back into that single file train that we had earlier. Now, there was a couple cars that had tried to make moves to the outside, and nobody went with them, and then they would drop behind us, so we moved up a couple spots to P15. But myself, Jay, I mean, everybody in the Toyota party, we were actually talking about our plan here, because we're down in P15, and we have no chance. You see myself and Jay trying to make a move to the outside, and it does not work. So we were trying to just come up with a plan here to just try something, because we can't just ride around at 15th until the end of this race and let the 41 or something like that win. So now, approaching the final 10 laps of this race, still single file on the bottom, and then myself, Jay, and Matt specifically said, you know what, we gotta try something. So we were starting to just kind of brainstorm some potential ideas here, because there's only going to be about 3 or 4 of us right now that are together in the Toyota camp that can actually make a run, but 4 of us versus what, 15 cars, the odds are pretty low of making anything happen. So we come through though to lap 96, and we decide, you know what, we have to make something happen here. So myself, Jay, and Matt go to the outside here down the back straightaway, approaching the final 4 or so laps of this race. MJ in the 49, he would actually jump up after Matt came with us here, so it was now 4 of us versus about 15 or so. So through turn 3, it looked like there was no chance that we're actually going to be able to make this happen. I should correct quickly, Matt was actually on the bottom for a moment, but as we would pass him, he would eventually jump up. But look at the ground we were making with just 4 cars or so. All of a sudden, myself, Jay, Matt, we're all up in the mix here, pushing Jay towards the front of the field within the final couple laps of this race. We had worked our way towards the top 5 with Jay all of a sudden, just doing what I thought was impossible, now pushing him towards second place now, as there was a lot of checkups on the bottom. Sure enough, out of turn 2, we push Jay to the lead. We have Matt right behind us, and all of a sudden, all 3 of us are going going to clear the 2 car on the bottom, leading that inside line. So we're all going to drop down, and all of a sudden we're P1, 2, and 3. Actually, I couldn't turn the car in time to get down in front of Matt, so he actually hangs me out there. He didn't want to, but it just kind of how it worked out, and then I would drop in behind him. So now we were P3, but then the caution comes up behind us and completely ruins everything. And then I actually have a moment of just stupidity here. I let off the throttle and let Andrew Wisdom beat me to the line, just not thinking that about the whole race it back situation. So now we would actually be in a situation where we were really close on field. Myself and Jay felt like we couldn't make it, so we decided to pit, and then we had a couple cars stay out, and that was the big moment right there, because we were all of a sudden, after pitting, down in P10 for a 2-lap sprint here in overtime for the Daytona 500. So now, of course, we had realized that myself and Jay, we just threw our chances of winning this race away as we go down towards turns 1. So now it was Matt and Andrew up towards the front as we go down into turns 1 and 2. Matt went all of last season without a win until the very end. With 2 races left in the season in the playoffs, he picked up a win on fuel mileage at Dover, and here he is now trying to win the Daytona 500 and lock himself into the playoffs in the first race of the season. And this is going to be such a crucial moment for him, because wins are going to be so important this season. It's going to be so competitive now as we go down into turn 3 and 4, but very frustrated with the pit call we had just made, of course, as we come through now out of turn 4. I was hoping that outside line wasn't just going to get rolling very well, but they were actually holding their own as we come through now down into the tri-oval to start the final lap here in the Daytona 500 for the Nitro Racing League. A pit mistake puts us back down towards the bottom half of the top 10 on this final lap as we go down into turns 1 and 2. All Matt really has to do is cover that double yellow line, and he will be fine as we come through the center of the corner. Andrew Wisdom trying to just come up with something to potentially make a move and go win the Daytona 500 after winning the championship last season for the 2nd time in his Nitro Racing career. As we go down this backstretch for the final time here, I have the 2 car of Smoke GT helping just behind as we go down into turn 3. On the outside, we have our teammate of Jonathan, but it's now Matt O'Brien leading the way out of turns 4, and we just can't go anywhere. We just have to hold on in line. Jay makes a bit of a mistake there. I actually put it inside, but it's not going to be enough. Matt O'Brien wins the Daytona 500. We come through to cross the line in P9 as everybody's going to go crashing as Matt O'Brien wins, and we finish in 9th place here. So we're going to just jump right to the point. So Matt is locked in, of course, to the playoffs down. That's why he is highlighted in yellow, but we are down in P10 because we picked up no stage points. So that didn't really help us whatsoever. So we definitely got some work to do to get into the playoffs, but it's going to be such a competitive season. If you guys enjoyed the start to the season of the Nitro Racing League, you know what to do. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch this episode, and I would, of course, like to thank our members on the channel of MJ, Joseph 9001, Timothy Arline, Bubba Jr., Brett Durward, Dark Gengar Gaming, AJ Vasura, King Matt XL, Dana 9302, as well as Russell Dixon. You guys help me out so much, as I always say, and I really do appreciate the support time and time again. So once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.